Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be checking out the latest two Tinto Talks Dev Diaries that talk about EU5 and of course everything that has been revealed in them so far, such as government types, government mechanics, the official announcement of the official EU5 starting date, the first look at the political map that's right behind me, and of course, very exciting, the estates. Stay tuned. So as you can see right over here for me, it's the morning of the 27th, which means that the latest Dev Diary that's supposed to drop today is going to release in a couple of hours. So first I'm going to talk about the Dev Diary that was released last week, the confirmation that the start date of EU5 is actually 1337, officially confirmed by the way, and we're also going to be going over some comments that Johan has responded to over on the forums. So without further ado, let's jump into our first Dev Diary right here, and then we'll move on with the rest. So this is the Tinto Talks number 4 Dev Diary from March 20th from last week pretty much, where this Dev Diary discusses some things about the different government reforms and government types in the game, and then we'll go over everything else, and of course along with the images that have been revealed to us. Welcome to the 4th iteration of Tinto Talks. Today we'll give you an overview of the different mechanics of the government part of the game. There will be development diaries going into much more detail for these later on, and for this I'm personally super excited. Government reforms and different types of governments are one of my favorite aspects of EU4, so I'm super excited to see that being expanded upon and learning how it'll work in EU5. First of all, we have 5 different government types in the game, which determines a fair bit of what type of mechanics you get access to. As an example, a republic does not have access to royal marriages, obviously, and a steppe horde has a different view on how war, peace, and conquest works compared to other types of countries. And these are the different types of governments that will be in the game. So a monarchy, which of course uses legitimacy, a republic with republican tradition, a theocracy with devotion, steppe hordes with horde unity, and tribes which use tribal cohesion. And these are pretty much the exact same 5 government types we have in EU4 right now. If you're not familiar with these, or if you're a newer player or something like that, monarchies are, for example, something like France or Hungary or the Ottomans. Republics, as you know, are like Venice, other Italian signorias and stuff like that. Theocracies, that's pretty much the Pope or any bishoprics in the HRE. Steppe hordes, I'm relating to EU4 here, of course, are like, for example, Kazan, Uzbek, the Great Horde, Oirat, and of course tribes or tribal nations are sort of primitive nations that show up in EU4. Most of them are located in the New World, North America, South America, Australia, and some of them are also present in Africa and in Asia. Not sure if there's tribal nations over in Europe. I don't think there is. But with all that said, we can see an illustration from our game right here. This looks sort of like, where the chair of the king or the monarch or wherever is located, the throne room, whatever you want to call it. And I'm liking these motifs quite a lot. Obviously, I'm seeing some Muslim inspiration over here. This sort of looks like, those colors and the domes and stuff like that. Maybe an Ottoman court or something like that. Not really sure, but let's move on. These together with country rank, which is pretty much if you're a princedom, a kingdom, an empire, or something like that. I think government reform and local flavor gives countries like the Crown of Aragon, Kingdom of Sweden, Principality of Wales. So it's very nice to see that countries will actually be named this in EU5 as opposed to what they are currently in EU4, where France is just France all the time, unless you go revolutionary or something like that, or the Ottomans are just the Ottomans all the time, right? Seeing, the Kingdom of England, the Empire of Great Britain and stuff like that, I think would be super cool, and I'm very glad to see that names like this will be featured in EU5. Not all countries are countries that are based on only locations on a map though. More on that on later development diaries. Now, there has been lots of speculation as to what this could mean, but the first thing that popped in my mind when I read this way back last week is like, what you call it, the Knights of Malta, which is a country technically that exists right now, or whatever they're called, that is a country, but they don't actually have any territory and stuff like that. I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly, Google Knights of Malta or whatever those guys are called, but that's the first thing that popped into my mind. Honestly, I don't have any assumptions on how this could work in EU5, but I guess it remains to be seen what this exactly refers to. I'm sure there are lots of people smarter than me that can make better assumptions on this, but moving on, each country also has a ruler, or they may be in a regency, of course, if there are no possible adult heirs. All right, this is pretty standard stuff that that we already know. One of the most defining parts of the government of a country in Project Caesar is the estates mechanic, another mechanic that I enjoy very, very much in EU4, and I'm also excited to see how it will work in EU5. This has been one of the core parts of the game, with a full connection between the population and the estates. Keeping the estates satisfied while keeping their powers low is an important part of the gameplay loop. In this game, the estates are also active entities and will do things on their own if they get enough power. So obviously, you know, right here where it says keeping the estates satisfied is pretty much estate loyalty in EU4. Keeping their powers low is pretty much estate influence in EU4. So I guess maybe it'll have different names, work in different, you know, ways, but it's still pretty much sort of the same thing. Now we can see right here 2 government reforms, one culture specific and one government specific. Okay, so we have some sort of Pasha's government reform possibly active, or maybe it is able to be enacted, and this gives the nobles plus 100% power and minus 10%, I guess, unrest. Is that unrest for the noble, for the pashas, or the nobles specifically? Is it global? We don't know. I guess it's global. And then we have an aristocracy government reform, you know, like the an autocracy tier 1 government reform, like in EU4. Monthly progress to aristocracy 0.1. So I guess you move from an autocracy to an aristocracy. We'll see. And then crown power, which maybe is some system that replaces some of the admin points, not admin points, monarch points systems that we have in EU4. I guess we'll see. Not a lot to go off of, just these 2 images right here. And then as time passes, different government reforms and reform slots will be available. They can also be based on tag, culture, or religion, obviously sort of similar to what we already have in EU4. And then another image pops up right here. These are 2 available possibilities in the law of language pleading for the country I tested. Now, let's take a look at what are laws exactly, and we'll get back to the image. Something that is different from a reform is what we call a law. A law can have several different policies you can pick from, and several laws have unique policies only available to certain tags, religions, cultures, government types, or other factors. There are some drawbacks to adding new reforms or policies though, as it takes a few years for it to have full effect, depending on your country's admin efficiency. Yes, it's a name for something else in another game, but it fits here. Okay, so let me stop right here. So actually, this is something I'm a fan of, man. Obviously, when you enact certain things, in EU4, for example, I don't know, nothing really works exactly like this, like laws or something like that, but a lot of things that you do in EU4 are instant, right? You unlock a new idea, a new mission, a new government reform, a new national idea, whatever, and all the effects for that are instant. Just like coring, I guess coring is an instant, but as soon as you wait a year or 2 and you know, the little meter fills up, everything is like instant and it's done. Whereas something like this that, you know, takes effect gradually, I feel like is way nicer. To give you like the simplest example right here, man, let's say you do some sort of army-related government reform, right? Like the tier, what are they, like 6 or 5 or whatever, and you enact, I don't know, plus 25% fort defense, and then instantly, as soon as you enact it, you have plus 25% fort defense. Whereas it will be a way cooler for it to take 10 years to get all of your, like, I don't know, garrison guys trained up, or maybe some maintenance on the force like that, and it goes up gradually. As soon as you enact it, it goes up by, you know, a 0.1 a month or something like that, or 0.01 a month. It really doesn't matter, but the whatever you enact goes up gradually. Probably not related to stuff we're seeing over here. I'm just giving you a simple example, but I am a fan of that. Now let's get back to these laws right here. So court language, you can do this or this. So I really don't understand the modifiers right here. Obviously, it's related to estates, like the peasants and the nobles and stuff like that. But monthly progress to free subjects, we don't know what that means. Monthly progress to serfdom, we don't know what that means. So laws, I guess, affect the estates and other aspects of your country as well. Regularly, if your government allows it, you can call in a parliament. If you don't do it often enough, the estates will start to get irritated. But each parliament has issues that need to be resolved, and the estates will have agendas that they want done for their support. Of course, you also have options to push through what you want from a parliament if you're willing to accept the demands of the estate, like changing a particular law. So I guess this may be sort of similar to maybe the stuff we have like in Victoria 3, right, where you gotta satisfy some of those guys to do a certain thing, or maybe like the regular parliament works in EU4 right now. I guess it remains to be seen. Another part of the government is called the cabinet, which also grows in size as you become more advanced, allowing you to do more things. This is something that can be viewed as a hybrid between EU4 advisors and CK2 council actions. Now, I'm going to be honest right here, I'm not going to comment on this a whole lot because I'm not familiar with CK2 council actions, but nonetheless, it's still welcome to see. Some of you may remember the domestic policies from EU2 and 3 and Project Caesar were bringing the idea back in the form of societal values. There are 7 that we took from these games, 1 that was split in 2, and we added 4 new ones, bringing the total to 13 different societal values. Societal values are primarily affected by what other actions you do, like what policies you pick in a law or what government reforms you pick. As with so many other things in our game, this is not an instant action but a gradual change over time, so that's very nice to see. And I guess this is what those things sort of like you know, the societal values look like. And for example, you know, you can lean towards centralization or decentralization instead of, you know, just picking government reforms for minimum autonomy or gov cap, aristocracy, plutocracy, serfdom, free subjects, and so on. So I'm excited to see how this system works in EU5. And next week, we'll go into much more detail about estates and how they work. And that's basically going to be the Dev Diary that I'm going to check out in, let's see, right here in just a couple of hours, if you can see the clock behind me, but you'll be seeing it just a couple of hours after it drops. So that's pretty much this, you know, this latest Dev Diary. Now, after this Dev Diary drop, man, this right here that we just went through isn't what was discussed the most. Instead, what people talked about the most was this image right here, which is why I waited to get to it last. Now, by this point, there is no point in dissecting this image that it is in fact a 1337 start date because it has already been confirmed. But if you guys don't see it, these you know, black bold borders are pretty much the borders of the countries right here, and a lot of people that are smart and that know about maps and stuff like that already confirmed this to be 1337. And judging off my limited you know, map knowledge of the period prior to EU4, I also concluded, man, that this is like the 1330s, 1340s, because obviously, man, we got the Ottomans right here. This is the Ottomans, if you can't really see it. This is Byzantium right here, pretty clear to see. We got Serbia up here, Bulgaria over here, and, you know, Epirus, various other Greek minor nations over here, various other Anatolian Beyliks, Trebizond, the Mamluks right here, and so on. So this is obviously, you know, moving aside from that these bold lines do show us the countries. This is obviously a province view map mode where pretty much we can see all the different provinces, or not provinces, sorry, locations. And then the provinces are ones that are in similar color. So for example, like right here, this, you know, these 2 locations, or maybe there are 3 or something like that, they belong to one province. This right here, all of these greenish locations, they're a different province. These bluish or purplish ones right here, they're a different one. These pink ones, a different one. These sort of, I guess, bleed into these, but this would be a different one. This right here is a different one. This right here is a different one. You get the point, man. These are sort of the, you know, the locations in provinces. Like you got areas and states and, you know, regions and continents in EU4. Now, even though this does look super detailed, I'm honestly not really too big of a fan of this. I think it would look a lot better if all of these that are in a certain province or area, whatever you want to call it, were the same color and just separated with a little, you know, faint line between them. This can get confusing, especially with all of the ones that have similar colors but are in different ones right next to each other. So this right here, even though it's pretty much the same color, obviously all of these aren't in a single, you know, province or area or whatnot. So there we go. This is this map, man. We can take a look at some of these. It's, you know, on the Paradox forum post. I won't leave a link to this in the description because I can't be bothered. Just go to the Paradox forum, boys. But yeah, you can dissect this map for yourself, man. And yeah, based off of this map, we concluded, the audience concluded, the fans, that EU5 does in fact start in 1337, which leads me to this next post by Johan right here, where he does in fact confirm the start date of April 1st, 1337. April 1st? Is this an April Fool's? Are they throwing us off? I don't know. But yeah, let's go into this right here. So there has been a lot of speculation on the start date, where many of you have figured out the correct start date of 1st of April, 1337. So why have we picked that date? Well, there are many reasons why. Let's get into them, and then I'll give you my thoughts on the 1337 start date. It starts before the Black Death, which creates an early game challenge. Cool. France's system of feudal loyalty is tested as Edward III is about to embark on the 100 Years' War. Also cool. There's still a colony on Greenland. Vikings? We have a big Byzantium, but Ottomans are about to expand. Man, boys, if you think the Ottomans are crazy buffed in EU4, man, wait until you see what kind of modifiers these guys are about to get in EU5. I can bet your ass these guys will be undefeatable. Their expansion has to be sort of heavily scripted and railroaded, but I am gonna be a fan of that. Also, if you think Byzantium, with you know, the fact that it looks like this, it's gonna be easy in EU5, hell no. Byzantium is still going to be an absolutely horrible, very difficult start if you know anything about Biz during this time frame. But moving on, the rise of Timur is soon to happen. Some powers are at their zenith but facing big challenges such as Mali, Delhi, or Yuan. Some others are at their start like the Aztecs, Cusco, Majapahit, or the Ashikaga shogunate. We get to model the transition from feudalism to modern states. We get to model the transition from feudal levies to standing armies, so this is like an imperator, very cool. New institutions are blooming in Italy and the rest of Europe, such as the Renaissance or banking. The HRE is in a moment of change, with three dynasties, the Wittelsbachs, the Luxembourgs, and the Habsburgs, competing for it, and the Golden Bull not yet enacted, which, you know, the HRE will work, I guess, a little bit differently in the early portion of EU5. The Catholic Church is at its height, with military orders are crusading in northeastern Europe and the Mediterranean. Obviously, you know, Lithuania is pagan and stuff like that, but the Pope resides in Avignon, which will lead to the Western Schism with Rome. So two popes, by the way, not in Rome, in Avignon. England's control in the Isles is waning as Bruce loyalists press the advantage in the Scottish Wars of Independence, and the Gaelic Irish chieftains begin to reclaim large tracts from the English lordship. Meanwhile, the seeds for the last great Welsh rebellion are being sown. An intricate balance of power in Iberia between the Christian kingdoms and the last Muslim footholds, even though Iberia will pretty much the same, just like in EU4. A different balance of powers in the regions such as Eastern Europe, the Middle East or Southeast Asia, the steppe hordes and their successors of Eurasia from the Mediterranean to the Pacific. So that's pretty much what you know, the reason why Paradox has chosen the start date of 1337. Now, let me actually look up a map of 1337 right here, and then we'll get into it. All right, so here we have a map of Europe in 1337 by the awesome, can't pronounce his name, but this guy makes really cool maps. And if we zoom into it, Jesus Christ, this resolution is massive. We can take a look at it. So this is what pretty much EU5, sorry, is gonna look like, man. Not, you know, exactly like this, but pretty much you can assume. So my thoughts on a different start date, man. Initially, I wasn't opposed to it, but the more I started thinking, man, and I posted this on Twitter too, by the way, the more I actually, and sorry to say this, boys, I don't mean to be negative or anything right here, but the more I actually don't agree with it, man. You know, as cool as it can be playing in a different start date, what I thought about, and this is, you know, coming from a little bit of a selfish aspect as a content creator as well, but isn't EU4 about, you know, colonization? You know, the whole expansion of the Ottomans, so Portugal can't go through there, so they start colonizing, exploring, blah, blah, blah. I think that's what EU4 is about, man. Exploration, colonization, you know, the Reformation, the Protestant Reformation, the 30 years, what you call it, the, you know, religious league wars over in the HRE, the Italian guys leaving, the finish of the Reconquista, the expansion of Russia, the PLC right here, France, Great Britain, and stuff like that. So I think all of the stuff that, you know, you come to most expect in EU4, man, is what EU4 is sort of about, you know. I guess the transition from feudal society to nation states and all the stuff that I just mentioned, exploration, the Renaissance, the Reformation, and stuff like that. And that got me thinking, man, you know, and this is specifically to content creation. But me and a lot of the other guys that make videos on EU4, you guys know how much we play, man. We play about 50 or 100 years in a campaign, get our goals done, and then we move on with the next one because it's more fun to play more nations rather than one nation for a very long time. Now, I'm sure you guys are like, yeah, sure, you know, you could do a Let's Play, a multi-part series or whatnot, and sure, that's totally valid, but you know, in regular videos and regular Red Hawk videos, my point is that in a regular video of mine on EU5, you won't see colonization. Almost never. You won't see the Reformation. You won't see, you know, the Italian guys leaving the HRE. You won't see the religious league wars in the HRE. You won't see a strong HRE. In all the stuff we've come to expect, you know, the Ottomans blobbing out and being the big boss at the end, eating Egypt and stuff like that. Ming collapsing, I guess Yuan will collapse, but a lot of things that EU4 is known for, you guys are most likely not gonna watch on YouTube videos. Now, sure, you guys are gonna play through it, obviously, but like I said, this is coming from a little bit of a selfish aspect. Now, I'm sure you're gonna say, well, yeah, you know, those things are great, and even though the typical player won't play more than 100, 150 years, and we still won't see those things in our game, there are different things to see, like everything that Johan just mentioned right here. And yeah, you're right about that. There are different things that you are gonna see in this game, everything that's mentioned over here, but I don't know, not seeing, in a typical playthrough, not seeing the things that EU4 is known about, honestly, I think it'll be strange to get used to. So yeah, so far, this is the 4th Dev Diary. Obviously, we can call this one 4.5 right here, but so far, from everything that Tinto has shown, this is the only thing right here that I can't really say I'm a fan of. I'm not opposed to it. I don't hate it. I just don't love it, or maybe even like it just yet. But yeah, that's about all I have to say about the, the 1337 start date right here. We can now go back and look at some of Johan's comments on this latest Dev Diary and on this right here before I end this recording and continue on later once Tinto Talks 5 drops. Now, going over into the show dev responses right here, we can see some Johan comment responses. So nice font, but please it be scalable. I'll pay extra. Johan says the UI is 100% scalable. Excellent. I can finally get a 4K monitor. The only reason I have 1080p monitors is literally because of you 4 boys. I do like the sea tiles giving gothic stained glass vibe. It's just a unique color per location. Okay. Is the map above showing the locations of that region? Also just wanting to know, is it location, area, province, state, right? Or did I have it the wrong way? Yes, each location has a unique color, but you do have it the wrong way. It's location, province, area, an area is a state. So yeah. Then right here, this person says, please tell me that the estates will have something to do with the population and economic mechanics of the game instead of just existing as their own disembodied thing with no connection to the material conditions of the state. Johan replies, yes. Then this person says, this is quite an elaborate illustration, like something out of CK3. Is it used in-game as a background or an event for a menu? It's one of the possible backgrounds for a menu. So this is what, that comment specifically is referring to. Then this person says, how customizable are government types? Very much. Are interrogatives a thing? Yes. When you refer to countries that aren't based on owning locations on a map, do these government types that aren't emulated in this Dev Diary, or are they specific countries? Something completely different for future Dev Diaries. Okay, what UI will be changed? UI has changed any times in the last 4 years and will change more before release. Obviously, these are like super early screenshots that we're getting, so this is assumed. And over here, Johan just says that the government reform system is not related to EU4, nothing with tiers and so on, so it'll work differently. I think it'll be like branching and stuff like that. Over here, a person asks about a little bit about the currency and stuff, and Johan says economy overview is a few weeks away, so we'll have to chill on that. The term core province lost all meaning in EU4, as you could just turn any province into a core in a few years by sending a bit of mana. Will Project Caesar maybe have some more similar conception of core provinces as in EU3? Neither like those, but something different. Okay, so core provinces are going to be completely different in EU5. In late game, you have so many seats you need to placate that it gets tedious, even if it's fine for the early game. This is referring to the parliament. The seat system of EU4 parliaments was shit. It did not age well. That's what Johan says. And then this was a very controversial comment right here. Will EU4 type mission trees make a reappearance in Project Caesar? Definitely not EU5. And Johan says no. There will be likely another type and style of mission trees. And honestly, this was a comment that shocked me, to say the least, because you guys know for how long I've talked about the fact that, I thought that the latest mission trees that have been introduced in EU5, with branching missions, with different types of missions based on the religion or path you take or whatever, I thought these mission trees that have been introduced since Origins, I thought that was going to be the basis for EU5, but it turns out it's going to be completely different, and judging by what everyone is thinking, it's probably going to be like Imperator, which I'm not opposed to. Once again, Johan says, I said no to EU4 style mission trees, nothing else. This person is asking for a screenshot of Central Europe. Johan says soon. Another confirmation right here that we are going to be able to take individual locations in wars. So, you could piece out, for example, let's say Biz owns all of this, right? And I guess when clicking, you could click full annex, get all of it, annex by areas or provinces or whatever you want to call it. So take all of this at once, all of this at once, and you will also be able to take individual locations as well. So there's a confirmation on that. That was already assumed based on, Imperator and Vicky 3. Once again, a confirmation on no mana, a confirmation that the war system won't be like Victoria 3. I don't know why anyone thought it would be like Vicky 3. There's no way it would ever be like that, okay? And just a little comment on the menus right here, that people aren't really a fan of the CK3 type menus where it takes up the whole screen, and Johan just says that it'll look pretty much like EU4. And then a little bit of responses right here that they chose the start date before starting, to draw locations and stuff like that. That Johan is not a fan of the revolutions mechanic, but I guess they will be featured in a EU5 as well. And that's pretty much it on everything we've gotten from this latest Tinto Talks 4 Dev Diary, and along with the post on the on the forums right here where Johan confirmed that the that the start date is 1337, along with a little dissection of the map right here. So yeah, that's pretty much everything that's been included so far. Fan of everything, like I said, except the start date, but I hope to be proven wrong. Yeah, I'm just weirded out that I'm not gonna see colonization in a regular playthrough and the Reformation, but I guess there are other things to look forward to. And by the way, if you're enjoying these EU5 Dev Diary videos, make sure to subscribe, because of course there'll be a ton of these all the way up to the release of EU5, so make sure to subscribe to stay up to date with the news. Alrighty boys, it's finally after 3 o'clock, as you can see right there, and the latest Tinto Talks Dev Diary has just dropped, and I think you can tell by the title and the thumbnail of the video, and by what's behind me right now, that the political map of EU5 has finally been revealed after 5 weeks of these Dev Diaries. Now, the Dev Diary specifically talks about the estates and stuff like that, which is really... which is really cool, and we will get into that, but first, let's go ahead and take a look at this glorious glorious 1337 political map mode, which is looking kind of dark, as you can see. Now, I think that is because what we're seeing right here is not fog of war, or yeah, it's fog of war. Basically, it's with another country, and if you zoom in too much, it's like darkened and stuff like that. But man, it is looking really nice. Look at Byzantium right here. There's Serbia, Bulgaria, Albania, Epirus, some other minor Greek nations right here. Not sure what this one is. All of these like light blue ones right here, maybe with the exception of this one, should be Venice as far as I know. This is Bosnia right here. I think this would be Wallachia. There's Naples right there. We got the Ottomans and various other nations that are known and unknown in EU4 right now. This is a part of Genoa up here. This is Chandar. We don't have the Kara seeds present in EU4. This is Saruhan, Aydin, Menteşe, Germian, Karaman. We don't have these guys right here. And I think this little place is Byzantium, man. Actually, this has a pretty famous name. I don't remember it right now, but that right there is Byzantium. So I'm very curious in seeing how this little exclave that you're completely disconnected to, most likely with hostile nations, these guys probably wouldn't like Byzantium. I'm interested in seeing how you get access to that. But Biz owns this as well right here. And then, these guys over here are new nations. This one is a new nation as well. This is Cilicia, I think, is another Armenian nation along with Armenia. We got Delkadir right here, Eretna, and these guys over here are new. Trebizond, Georgia, some unknown nations up here. I don't know who these guys are. The Ayubids are obviously Hezenkaifa. This would be the Mamluks right here. And the Jalayarids, or whatever it's pronounced, sorry, right there, and the R2 kids right there. So yeah, man, this is the first look at the political map, and it's looking so good. It even got me, over my sadness that I just talked about a few minutes ago about the 1337 start date. But it's finally nice to see something like this. So yeah, man, go over to the forum, check it out, check out the image for yourself. But for now, let me get into this Dev Diary right here that talks about estates. And Johan says, welcome to the 5th Tinto Talks, where we talk about the design for our upcoming top secret game with the codename Project Caesar, hashtag totally not EU5. And then we get another awesome image right here, man, of Louis, whatever number he is. The state is me. Oh, you meant E-state. Sorry, not me. I don't know what that means, but yeah, this obviously lets us know, man, if this art is from the game, that the game goes at least into the 1700s. My personal prediction right now is 1337 to 1836, so 499 years of gameplay. I think that's how long EU5 is going to last, but cool image nonetheless. Today we'll go into detail about one of the core system design in the game and talk about how estates work. First of all, there are 4 estates in Project Caesar, which mostly map one-to-one with a social class, basically with the type of people in EU5. The nobles, the clergy, the burghers, and the commoners. So this is a new type of estate that we're not familiar with in EU4. Obviously, we got the nobles, the clergy, the burghers, but the commoners basically represent the peasants, or whatever they would be called in that specific nation, right? They match one-to-one with the pops that have already been talked about, and there's also the crown, which represents the state itself. So take a look at it like this, boys. Each estate gains power based on the amount of population belonging to the estate, which is also modifiable by local attributes of where the population is, where some nobles may have very high power in a certain area, or whether a specific city has entrenched burgher rights right there. So, based on the population, it's sort of like it used to be in EU4, where you used to manually grant provinces to estates, right? And let's say, for example, I don't know, you're playing as the Ottomans and you grant the nobles Constantinople. Obviously, that gives them a ton of power because there's so much dev in Constantinople and stuff like that. Whereas, you know, you grant them, I don't know, some less valuable province that you just took from, I don't know, Albania or something, and they don't gain that much, you know, bonuses to them. So that's sort of what this could be like. I'm trying to relate it to something we know, but obviously it's going to work differently in EU5 based on the population, on whatever's going on in that specific province or area or location or whatnot. So this is a first look at the official, you know, estate influence, estate screen. I guess it's still a work in progress, but this is probably their power. So all of this right here, Johan mentions later on that the total power of the estates and the crown together add up to 100%. So you can take a look at this as sort of like land ownership. When you go into the estates, imagine it like that. You got 23% crown land ownership, the nobles got 6, the clergy got 32, the burghers got 20, and the commoners got 19%. It's not really land ownership, it's just power, but let's relate it to something we already have, right? Obviously, this interface is looking pretty nice, even though it's still a work in progress. Let's continue reading and then we'll get back to it. This is the estates part of the government view, where you can see their power, which is this, current satisfaction, which is this, the equilibrium it's trending toward, and what privileges it currently has. So I think one of these numbers right here is the current, equilibrium it's trending towards, right? So if the estates are, I think it works like this. If the commoners are 86% happy, they're trending towards 95, or they're either 95% happy, they're trending towards 86. I think that's how I'm seeing that. Every 1,000 nobles gives plus 50 estate power to their estate, while 1,000 peasants merely give 0.05 estate power as default. This is because you'll have so few nobles in the country, less than, I guess, I don't know, maybe 100, even if you have millions of population. Whereas, you know, the commoners or the peasants will be in the millions. So that's why obviously it has to work like this. And obviously one noble in this time frame of the game, and probably in the present day as well, it's more powerful than millions of commoners. So the total power of all 4 estates and the crown together add up to 100%, which I already talked about, which is the effective power they have. Depending on your crown power, you can either get a scaling penalty or a scaling bonus on aspects like the cost of revoking estate privileges, the cost of changing policies and laws, the efficiency of the cabinet, the expected costs of your court, and other things that we don't really know too much about and how they work. If your crown power is weak, you need to have the estates really satisfied, or you will not get much out of any parliament you try to call. So this first part right here, think of it just like how much crown land ownership you have. You do gain some penalties right now for it, like, you know, a liberty desire from subjects, less max absolutism, monthly autonomy increase. So this is similar to what we currently have. However, this is slightly different. Basically, the less power the crown has, the more power the estates have. And if you call a parliament and tell them, hey guys, I need all of you, the estates, I'm just, you know, making stuff up here, to give me 1,000 ducats, and they'll be like, no, get out of here. Right? They'll have more power than you and stuff like that. At least that's how I'm imagining it. Each of the 4 estates has a current satisfaction and equilibrium it will move towards. Some estates and some countries will have the estate satisfaction moving quicker to the equilibrium than others. Each estate has 2 factors per type of estate in which their satisfaction impacts the entire country, where satisfaction above 50 gives a scaling bonus and below a scaling penalty. So yeah, basically, if your guys are happy, they'll, you know, Pop's happy, good. Pop's unhappy, bad. It's really as simple as that, boys. If they're above 50, they'll give you bonuses, just like it is in current EU4. If they're above 30, it's chill. If they're above 4, you get stuff. If they're above 50, you get stuff. If they're above 60, you get stuff. And if they're below, you gain negative modifiers. So this is sort of similar to that. If the satisfaction is below 25%, the estates will not provide any levies, which means that is immediately detrimental to doing wars and stuff like that. Most importantly, the estate satisfaction also impacts the satisfaction of the pops that belong to that estate. Obviously, logical, right? Possibly creating rebel factions or even civil wars. And basically, the nobles impact your prestige gain and your counter-espionage. I guess this is more relevant in EU5. Clergy impacts your research speed and your diplomatic reputation. I'm not sure if I would link the diplorep to the clergy, but hey, who am I to say anything? Burghers impact your merchant power and the production efficiency. So this is a new type of modifier that we need to learn along with this. Prestige, obviously, counter-espionage, diplorep, we know, production efficiency, we know, and then the commoners impact our food production, which is very, very interesting, and I'm excited to hear more about this, and your stability costs, which, of course, you know, most of these are logical, so I'm I'm excited to read all of this right here. So what impacts the satisfaction equilibrium of an estate? The privileges they get, the current stability, some reforms may impact them, some laws may impact them, how you tax them, and much more. Some examples include clergy being happier with higher religious unity, obviously, or burghers liking having more market centers in your country, obviously, right? So pretty logical, and I like the simplification of this explanation right here. Estate privileges then, you may feel forced to grant privileges to estates to be able to tax them more, and you may be forced to grant privileges to get their support in parliament. All privileges impact the power of their estate, and many also increase their satisfaction equilibrium. They all have some impact on gameplay fitting the privilege, and often they also have a societal impact of the country. So this is basically, you know, a preview of a sort of a privilege. So free mobility for peasants. This makes them 10% happier and also gives them 20% more power. Monthly progress to free subjects. I don't know what that means. I guess we'll see what kind of modifier that is. This allows the peasants to migrate, basically move to more attractive locations in your country or maybe even out of your country. And this also makes the nobles 10% more, 10% less satisfied, or their satisfaction to trend towards 10% less to what it currently is. There are many different privileges and many unique ones depending on where and what type of country you play. We mentioned taxes before, and while this is not the development diary where we're going to detail about the economic system, it is important to mention that the estates of a country have wealth that is increased by the amount of money that you may have not taken from them in taxes. Rich estates will use their wealth on many things, primarily to invest into things that benefit them, but will often also build things that also benefit the country, which is cool. The estates will be doing stuff on their own. Maybe if the burghers are super happy, you're not taking too much money from them, maybe they'll be the one building, you know, marketplaces and stuff like that, right? It remains to be seen how this works. And then we conclude with next week, we'll talk about a few new concepts that are rather new to this game that have not been present in previous games, as we'll talk about proximity, control, and maritime presence. Now, what I think this relates to is some of you guys may have noticed in some of the previous maps that were dropped on these Dev Diaries. I can't be bothered to look at them right now, but some of you noticed that the sea tiles next to certain countries were colored in the same way that a country that would be there was colored. So I think this may mean that, for example, taking a look at Byzantium here, that these, for example, sea tiles would be owned by Byzantium or something like that. So I do think there will be some sort of system like that in the game, man. Basically, like all of this being owned by the Mamluks, maybe depending on how much trade power the nations have there, maybe how much naval power they have there or something like that. So I think we will see some sort of quasi-ownership of at least these border sea tiles in EU5. I think that is something that this could relate to. Maritime presence, maybe it could be called, or whatever. All concepts that need to be talked about in detail before we go into the economy system. So that's this Dev Diary, man. Honestly, super exciting. Very cool screenshots that we got right here as states. Finally, the political map, some artwork and stuff like that. And yeah, now all that's left to do is to check if Johan has left any comments right here, or if not, if he hasn't left any comments, we'll just go through them next week after he inevitably does leave some. Yeah, just real quick, a commenter posted this map, so that's what I wanted to talk about. But look at how certain sea tiles are colored right here, right? Is that just the sea, what you call it, like area or whatever? Or is it like based on the country over there? It's somewhat like this. I don't know if this was the exact map. But yeah, man, no comments from Johan just yet, so I guess we'll go through those next week and stuff like that. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think about the political map, everything that we talked about from Tinto Talks number 4, and everything we talked about just now from Tinto Talks number 5. It's 18 minutes to 4 right now for me. You guys will be seeing this video in 6, a little more than 2 hours and stuff like that. So yeah, very exciting, everything that we've talked about today. And of course, boys, don't forget to click that subscribe button if you're new or old here. Doesn't matter if you want to stay up to date with EU5 news, because we will be covering all of these Tinto Talks Dev Diaries right here. But yeah, that's about it from me today. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like. It really helps out a lot. And if you like the content and want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of them. And you can become a member today and join the Discord. The link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with another EU5 video. I hope so.